This phrase, what have I got to lose, can be understood in two different ways. They're both useful, actually, but they're quite different. One way is sort of something that we might say out of a sense of desperation, like, oh, I've tried everything else, what have I got to lose? Maybe I'll give this a try. That sense. And that has a certain usefulness, right? That sense of being willing, being open, being sort of available to look at things differently. And so that sense of just opening oneself to some other possibility than however we've been looking at life up till that point. So that has a benefit, that sort of open willingness. If we're still chasing the things that life seems to offer, and it's working out for us, there's not much motivation at all to even listen to a talk like this. It's almost always a matter of having some shock to the system that causes us to question the beliefs that were motivating us up till that point. If everything's going our way, there's not much point in looking at things differently. There's enough enjoyable things about life to keep us occupied. If the pleasures and the benefits are a steady stream in our direction, most people aren't willing to question that. They are willing to question it when things don't go our way. So it can by generally I mean almost always, require some sort of shock to the system, like messy divorce or loss of a career or perhaps death of a loved one or serious medical diagnosis, to cause us to sort of wonder whether our ideas about how life should work should be questioned. Until that point, we're just on cruise control. But if we come up against that point, or it could even be like a midlife crisis, like we get to a point where we suddenly realize, well, I've let a few decades slip by, and I realize, it's becoming more apparent that life is finite, and I've yet to find this sense of abiding happiness that seemed to be possible or promised when I was growing up. So we might, be inclined to ask the question, is this all there is? Is this the extent of life? And at that point, there's several possibilities. I mean, one is to sort of double down on what seemed to work in the past. I'll just, work harder and take a few more courses, and, I'm sure things will turn around for me. That's one possibility. Another possibility is just to, sink into a sort of a state of depression for the duration. I'll just run out the clock, and I guess this is what it's like. Of course, there's always pills and alcohol. That's, some people go in that direction, but a few people may at this point turn to spirituality. What have I got to lose? I'll try spirituality even. But what often happens is we take the same mentality that seems to work in the workaday world and bring that same mentality into spirituality. And the problem is it works differently. And so the attitude I mean is that, if there's a goal, something I want to achieve, then I just need to buckle down and work harder, just do what I have to do in order to get to some future goal. And the goals are very enticing, peace, bliss, a quiet mind, enlightenment, perpetual high state. So very, very attractive, and who would not grasp after such things? The only problem is that in spirituality, the one that is grasping after is the one that has to be seen through. And so we can imagine, for a long time even, that this journey to sort of spiritual fulfillment is a matter of, adopting the right set of metaphysical beliefs, having the appropriate diet, taking on sort of a spiritual veneer, having the right set of beliefs, doing the required number of hours or years of meditation, the right practices. And so there are many avenues that are promoted as necessary steps to get from wherever you think you are to the promised land. And we don't know if any of them are true. We may think we do. A lot of people are promising that they are true, that this is what's required, that somehow something is lacking currently. And if you, do the necessary practices and take on the necessary beliefs and philosophy, then there you go. It'll all work out. But we don't actually know if that's true or not. But the presumption that it is true is based on an assumption that what I am now is somehow flawed or lacking in some way. Therefore, I need to do something in order to be qualified. So we can really inquire about what exactly is lacking in this moment that we hope to discover at some future moment. And if it's really understood that what is actually at the core of our being is just an essential beingness that couldn't possibly be absent, not for a moment. And if it couldn't be absent ever, it must be present now. So the question isn't how many years do I have to seek? Do I have to sit on a cushion? What ideas do I have to adopt? All of that is moving in the direction of outwardly in the belief that somehow something is necessary that's not now present. So we never really look at what's already present because the belief, we're so certain in the beliefs that it couldn't be possibly, not me, not like this, not with all my faults. So I need to improve myself, make myself worthy, fix my karma, right, in order to qualify for some future possibility, some future hope of abiding peace and happiness. So off we go on a journey that can take years, maybe decades, looking for that situation, that adventure, that experience that'll resolve everything. So that brings us to the second possible interpretation of what have you got to lose. And the second interpretation is if we truly see, even conceptually, that what I am most essentially must be present now, then the question becomes, why am I not seeing that? If it's present now and people say it's as obvious as your hand in front of your face, why can't I see it now? So this is a good question. And it really comes down to all of the beliefs and opinions and concepts and judgments that we hold that we're quite certain of about how life works and how the world is and how other people are and how I am. And that's what holds the sort of the framework of our imprisonment in place. That certainty that I know how the things work, and I know what I need to do to get out of it. But the presumption is that I'm trapped to start with, and I have to somehow gain something that's somehow beyond or outside of myself in order to fix that, in order to resolve that. All ideas, all of it, all believed concepts. And yet there's something innate in all of us that is already present, already aware, already complete as is. It's not that the personality is going to be polished to a fine, transparent hue. Yes, some edges will be rounded off. There will be more transparency over time. But you can't get to a state of this fundamental discovery through trying to fix the physicality, fix the structure, work on our personality, on our conditioning. All of that's fine, has a certain social use, but it doesn't get you to what you already are. It's actually a denial of what you already are. So St. Francis had an interesting statement, and he said, the one you are looking for is the one that is looking. Very simple. The one that you are looking for, seeking after, is the one that's looking. That's why we never see it, because we're always looking at something. At our conditioning that we have to fix, at the things in our past that we regret, at our ideas about how the world should be, always outside of ourselves, always some concept about life, and life is not a concept. It's as real as it gets. So the second way of looking at the same phrase, what have you got to lose, is really like what is it that I'm carrying, holding on to, that needs to be let go of. And it's because it's those beliefs and opinions about how everything is and how I am that hold this whole conceptual structure of a little me in a big world in place. So rather than sort of seeking after enlightenment, which isn't actually possible because until it happens, we have no idea what it is. It's always a surprise. So we can't seek something that we don't actually know what it is. But what we can do is see clearly those things that are obscuring the view of what is already present. So those are all our opinions and ideas and beliefs about everything. So that we can do. So there's two ways to do that. One's a slow way, one's a much more efficient way. The slow way is to look at the beliefs one at a time. And that may have some usefulness, especially the really sticky beliefs, the ones that cause us a lot of suffering, to see if they're true. By true, I mean absolutely true. A lot of things are relatively true, like true sometimes, not entirely true all the time. But we can look at sort of an individual belief and see if it's really true all the time, or it's maybe true part of the time. That doesn't count. If we're looking for sort of ultimate truth, we need to get past sort of this, well, I was relatively right, and the other person's relatively to blame. That's just sticky territory. So that's the less effective, or the less direct way of doing it. One belief at a time, because usually when we see through one belief, there'll be another one just ready to replace it. The more efficient way is just to see the nature of belief as a whole, the conceptual nature of belief. Belief just means I don't actually know. That's why I believe it. It's like the mind wanting some level of comfort. Like, I just wanted this thing settled. I'll believe that. I'm good. But whatever that belief is, it's a concept about something more real. Hopefully fairly easily see that any concept that we have about life, about the entirety of life, or the entirety of my existence, any concept about that will be maybe partially true, but it won't be the entirety of it. So anything that we can reduce to words will inevitably be a concept. So if that's understood, even on a conceptual level, we can maybe not get pulled into that black hole of trying to sort out which beliefs are true and more true and less true. And just see that the nature of beliefs, what the mind tells itself, won't ever be absolutely true. Might be mostly true. That's nice. But it won't be absolutely true. So we come back to this statement by St. Francis. The one you are looking for is the one that's looking. And just come back to that innate beingness that's already present for all of us, to just be knowingly aware of whatever's happening in the world around us, whatever's happening within this body-mind, pure awareness. By pure awareness, I don't mean it's not a moral thing. It just means awareness prior, recognizing that capacity of awareness prior to whatever objects appear within it, including thought, including feelings as objects, including the appearance of this body as an object appearing within awareness. So this is the second way to look at the same phrase. What have I got to lose? What am I hanging on to that I don't need to? What can I afford to let go? So I can't let go of something that I secretly believe to be true as a strategy to get what I want. That doesn't work. You have to really see that it's not ultimately true. And if we clearly see that it's not true, it will drop of its own non-existent weight. It's like the classic example from India is you walk into a room and there's a coiled snake in the corner of the room, and there's an initial fear, and then you look more closely and see, oh no, it's just a coil of rope. And at that point, you don't have to try. Once you've clearly seen it, it's just rope and not a snake. You don't have to try not to be afraid, right? It just evaporates. And the same is true as if we see something clearly and see that it's not actually true, we don't have to try to let it go. We only have to try to let go of something that we actually secretly believe to be true. And that doesn't work. So this is what is meant by dropping away. What have I got to lose? Well, about all those beliefs and opinions and ideas that we're all quite certain of. And if we can truly rest in a state of receptivity without expectations that it will lead anywhere, just out of more as a state of curiosity, like, I wonder what it would be like if I was here without expecting anything, without believing anything, without imposing my ideas on whatever was present. What would that be like? Just that, you can sort of feel it, that expansiveness of that. No expectations, no beliefs, no opinions, just present. No picking a fight with the mind, let the mind do what it does, and just remain present. So what have I got to lose? All of that. All of those ideas and opinions and expectations, demands on life, all of that. And just see what's present when all of that is set aside. You can always go back and pick it up again if you'd like. But if you can, just set it aside and see what's truly present here. As is, give it a try.